Up to this point, we've been using Project as a planning tool, a place where we can add in our tasks and resources to get a good idea of how long a project should take. While planning is important, it's equally important to track out what actually happens. The power of Project is when you can track actual events to the estimates you made at the beginning of the process. It's going to help you be proactive in your thinking so that you can anticipate challenges before they become big problems. It's also going to help improve your estimates for future projects because you can compare actuals against estimates when your project is done. Now, to do this, you're going to need to set a baseline to get a picture of your project schedule at the moment that your planning is complete, and we'll be learning about that in our next movie. But before we do that, we want to take a look at the different options that Project provides for you in order to calculate the costs in your project. Now, we do that by going up to Tools, and then down to Options. In opening up our Options dialog box, we want to make sure we're looking at the Calculation tab. Now, the calculation options are either automatic or manual. Now, when you want to be working in real time, you would like the power of the application to do all the work, so you want to set it at automatic, and that's what usually it's defaulted to. You also want to make sure that you're calculating all open projects so that you are, again, in real time, because part of the project management scope is to make sure that you're making timely decisions. So you want to have the tool working as quickly and as powerfully for you as possible. Now, you also have some different options in order for the calculations to be done on your baseline. First default is that it will update tasks, statuses, and resource statuses in unison, so that as you update your task status, it's going to update the resource status and the associated costs with that particular resource. So you, again, are keeping your assessments in real time. You're also going to want to establish a project status date where you're going to be giving information to the management of your organization as to where your particular project is. And then at this point in time, this is where you might want to activate one or both of the next two options. Selecting one of these two options allows you to move the end of completed parts after the status date back to the status date. So it's going to give you a prorated status at a point in time so that you can have a fairly accurate assessment of where your project is at. So again, depending on how you are doing it now manually or in other applications, you want to make sure that you are establishing those best practices and pulling them into this project application as well. So you can determine which is most appropriate and make that selection. Not only does the Microsoft project help you plan and schedule your project, it will also give you some financials to work with. And that's what this next section allows you here under Earned Value. It lets you determine some of the criteria that you want to work with in terms of how you're going to calculate the numbers that are associated with your project. So again, based on how you are doing it now, what your best practices are in your organizations, you will be looking in here to make sure that you are selecting the criteria that makes the most sense. Edits to the total task % complete will be spread to the status date in terms of determining a cost. Inserted projects are calculated like summary tasks, so they roll up to the total. Actual costs are always calculated by Microsoft Project, and it doesn't allow you to manipulate them unless you want to select the edits to the total. Actual costs will be spread to the status date as well. So in this case, we're just going to leave the defaults in place, and we're going to click OK. So now you're ready to establish your baseline for your project, and that's what you're going to learn about in the next movie.